Okay, so at this point, we want to do what we did with our homepage, and we want to start loading in all this data from our Redux store instead of loading it in from our component level state. So in order to actually make changes to that state in our Redux store, we need to go ahead and add in new actions, new constants, and new reducers. So if you are new to Redux, you will start to see how we repeat this process every time we want to update that store. So make changes to it. We are just going to go through the same cycle of making those actions and then actually triggering them in our component. So let's just go ahead and start here. And the first thing I am going to do is make some constants. So in our constants file, we are still working with the product constants. So we'll just create some new constants. And I'm just going to copy and paste these because we still need request, we still need success and fail. But for this, I'm just going to highlight list and I want to change all of these right here. So a little shortcut you can use is just hit Ctrl D and select all of those that you need. And then from here, we are just going to change this to details. So we have our constants, and the next step would be to update and create some reducers. So in our reducers, we are still in products, so these will still be product reducers. Let's go ahead and import our constants. So I'm going to add a commas there, and I'm just going to repeat these right here, and I am going to change these to details. So we'll just hit Control D again two times, and we'll change these to details. So we have our constants and we want to create our first reducer for our detail or our only reducer, but we want to create a reducer for it. So let's go ahead and take our product list reducer and just underneath I am going to copy and paste this, and we can make some changes here. So in a product list, we will just change this to details and then we want to change this to product, and product is going to be an object, so we'll make that an object. But inside of product we do want reviews, and that's going to be an array. So we have our product object and we have our reviews, but we can also change this to details. So I will hit Control D and then just do details like that. So, and for the product here, what we are going to do is we will just use a spread operator and we will just pass in the state here. So we'll just do that. And then for our product details success, we want to change that to product. And I think everything else uh, is pretty good. So just looking for anything I need to change. So I think that's good. It's exported. What we need to do now is actually register this with our store so we can go into our store.js file. Let's find that right here in source store.js, and we can just throw in product details here. So let's just do product details reducer, and to actually register this, all we need to do is add it. So add it in here. So we'll just copy and paste this right here. And this is going to be product details, and we will throw in this reducer here. So if I save this, we have officially updated our state, so it can actually handle the product details. So let's go ahead and look at that. Let's see what's going on here. Product details is not exported. So did I not export that? Let's see from reducers. I'll save that. Maybe I didn't save it. So there we go. just to save. So if I look at this, the data is still from our component level state. But if I look into our Redux store, if I look into the state, we now have our product list, and we should get our product state. So that's kind of interesting. Let's see, we'll go into state. Let's go into chart. There we go. So now we have our product details, and that was registered, and we have our reviews. So next, what we want to do is actually create an action. We want to update that state and then call it within our component here. So we'll go back into our reducers, and I actually want to copy these right here. So these imports for our constants, I can close our reducers, and I'm going to close our constants, we'll close our store, and we'll go into actions. So we are still dealing with product actions. So we are going to use this file. I'm going to add in a comma there, and I will just import these constants into our actions. So for our actions, we are also going to repeat this because a lot of behavior is going to be the same. We'll take in our actions or our action, and we are going to change this to from list products. And I wanted this to be list product details. So we will do product and then details. And in here, I need to pass in an ID. So we need to know what the product ID is, because we are going uh, to make an API call. And in here, I'm going to use backticks. Instead of these quotes, I'm going to throw in the product ID. So I will just show you what we are doing. And here, just so you can refresh your memory in our component or in our. So let's see, we are in the screen within product screen. We made this API call using match dot parents dot id. So we'll throw this into our action, and that's how. So that's how we are going to get this. So we have API products, and they will get that. So what else do I need to update? I need to update these constant right here. So this will be detail. So I will do Control D. We'll grab this one, and then this one will just do details. And I think that's it for the action. So product or list product details, and we need to actually use this action. Uh, so to use this action, we are going to throw that same process. We are starting to repeat a lot of stuff here. We make our API call. I'm making sure everything is good here. Let's go into our component. So we are in our product screen component, and we want to add this. So the first thing we can do is actually get rid of Axios. We can get rid of product, and then we can get rid of everything inside of use effect. So this should all look familiar to you. And before we get that error, let's go ahead and actually set our product here. So we'll just do const, and then we'll set that to an object, or let's see, let product, and then that will just be an object. So we'll set the product, and we need to make a few imports. So we'll import from React Redux. So this should all look familiar from the home screen. We are going to import use dispatch, and then we want to import use selectors, and we want to import the so import the action. So we'll just do import dot actions, and then we want the product actions, and then we want this list. So product details action, list product details. So I just want to make sure this, I just copy this, I will paste that in here, and we want to set up our dispatch. So we'll remove some space here and let's set that dispatcher up. And let's just do const dispatch, and that's going to be set to use dispatch. And to actually dispatch this action, we can use the dispatch right here, and we need to throw in our action right here. So we'll do list product details, and in here we are going to fire off the function. But we also need that ID. So remember, we are passing in an ID, and for this we are going to use match and then pass in what we uh, passed in URL. So we are going to do match.parents.id, and now our function or our state in Redux should have uh, been updated. So if I go back into my template or in my component, if I refresh this, we are not seeing anything because we passed in that empty object. But if we go into inspect, I can go into Redux, we'll go into our state, and now we see our product list, we see our product details, and we can see uh, that the product details is going to be this iPhone 11 right here. We can see all the data, and we can go back into another product. We'll go into these airports, and now we see the airports loaded in. If we go into difference, we can actually see the difference in our state here. So the first one was the iPhone 11, and then we can see this being updated. So that's pretty neat, and actually be able to, and actually being able to see how that state is changing. And we'll just go to this PlayStation now, and we can also see that update. So let's go ahead and actually get the data from our Redux and paste it in here from Redux store. So to actually update that, we are going to go in here and we are going to use selector. So we will just do const and we'll just do product details. And in product details, we are going to use selector, and inside of use selector, uh, we are going to use state and that arrow function, and we want to pull out a specific part of our Redux store, and that's going to be product details. So if we go back into store, I'm going to repeat myself again. But now we want the product details, and that's how we are able to get that. So we have the product details here. We also want to destructure this to get the data. So we'll go in here and we'll just set this to the product details object, because that does have more parameter than just the product itself. So we'll say product details, and from product details we'll want loading, we want error, and we want uh, the product itself. So if I say this, let's see what's our error. Oh, it looks like we need to get rid of this too. So we have a conflicting error there, and now we should use this data. So this is all coming from the Redux store. So if I go to my camera now, the state's being updated and everything looks pretty good here. So we are pulling in real data from our Redux store. So the last thing we want to do here is what we did in our home page, where we have that load spinner and an error if we get back an error. So we'll just test that out once we do. And you can see that load spinner when we go back. So that's what we want to use here, and we want to import those components. So let's go ahead and copy and paste rating twice. And we want, because those are both components, so we are going into the components folder, and we want the loader, and we will change this right here. So loader, and we also want the message. So this message and message right here. So down here we are going to put that in just underneath our link, and we are going to go ahead and minimize uh, our rows. So we want to paste that in just above it, and then we'll wrap this. So we have that loading part of our state here, and we also have error. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll just go ahead and write that condition, and we'll just start this out by saying loading. And if we are loading, let's go ahead and pass in that loader. So we'll just do loader, and that's that component. And if we have an error, so let's go ahead and just go 101 underneath, and I will create some indentation. So not indenting. There we go. So we have the loader, and if we have an error, let's go ahead and check that too. So if error, then let's go ahead and pass in our message. So for our message, we want to pass in the error as the child like we did before. So we'll just do error, so we can actually pass in the message into that alert. And we also want to pass in the variant of danger. So we want to make this red, so we'll just do danger. And then we also want to take this row. So I will go ahead and expand this. We'll copy everything from row down to the bottom right here. And I'm going to copy that, and I want to paste this inside just after this question. So we need to add in one more column, and I'm going to use my curly braces, or not curly braces, but my braces, not my braces, but the parenthesis while I can't talk right now, and we'll just save that. So now we have our condition, we have our loader, we have our error message, and let just test that. So let's go into our camera, and we'll go in. Let me just try to refresh. So it's showing up right here. It's going pretty quick. So I will do that a few times, and let's test that error. So let's go into our product. Let's just break this right here. We'll make that a bad API call. And there we go. We get our request failed, so I will fix that. Make sure everything's working fine. And before we move on, I realized that we should also, or I forgot to add in dispatch and match into my use effect here. So I want to fix that before we move on. And if we go into our page now, everything's look good. So in the next section, what we are going to do is cover building our car, adding to cart, and all of that functionality. So we'll see you in the next section.